On today's Community Wednesday, let's break down the stats and performance of the FR5.56. This weapon has been regarded as one of the worst weapons, if not the worst weapon in Warzone. For about a week it had its time to shine when its underbarrel shotgun was a bit overpowered. But other than that, it's been pretty much ignored. But after all the changes to the meta, is it finally okay to use the FR5.56? In this build, we'll be using the monolithic suppressor, the FR 24.4 inch sniper barrel, tac laser, the OK 3.0 times optic if you're on PC, and any of the holographic sights if you're on console, and the 60 round mag. So let's get into its stats, starting with mobility. It's got an ADS time of 320 milliseconds, which is not ideal. We would want to get this under 300 if possible, and it's a lot closer to this if you're using a holographic sight. Its reload and reload at times though are 2.89 from empty and 2.38 if you leave one in the mag. And with a mag cap of 60, this is actually pretty great. Its movement speed is average, which is not really typical for long-range Modern Warfare weapons, but its sprint speed is below average, and this is what is expected for longer range weapons. And its ADS straight speed is also in line with other long-range weapons. Its sprint out and tac sprint out times are once again pretty average, but its stability is 1.5 T, which is pretty great for long-range combat. And its bullet velocity, while not the best, is still pretty good at 1081.1 meters per second. Now for its rate of fire, in burst mode, it is 7.4 rounds per second or 445 rounds per minute. But in semi-auto mode, it's 7.75 rounds per second or 465 rounds per minute. So it gets a mobility score of 30. Its recoil is quite interesting. For the first 30 shots, it's pretty great in burst mode. But after that, it just starts spreading out and its horizontal recoil is just a lot. But you can use the burst mode up to 85 meters. And in semi-auto mode, it's a different story. The first 20 shots are manageable, but after that, you have no idea what you're gonna get. It may end up being easier, or it may end up being a lot harder, but usually it's gonna be going straight to the right. But because of the sudden right turn, it's a lot harder to learn, so it can only be used up to 55 meters. So in burst mode, it gets a recoil score of 38, and in semi-auto, it gets a recoil score of 33. Now for its damage. As you can see, it has no drop-off range. Under 30 meters for its headshot TTKs, burst mode is going to have a below average TTK, and semi-auto is going to have an above average. Their upper torso, lower torso, and limb TTKs though, even though the semi-auto mode will be getting a better TTK than the burst mode, they're still both going to be way below average. In the second damage range though, both their headshot TTKs are going to be really great, and their upper torso, lower torso, and limb TTKs are going to be average, with once again, the semi-auto mode having an advantage. However, things get a bit different when we start looking at one headshot in the mix. If we get one headshot in the mix, that's suddenly 6 shots to kill, which means for burst mode, that's only 2 bursts. And because the bursts are fired much faster than the individual average shots, you can now see that the burst mode is going to get a great TTK, while the semi-auto mode is only going to get an average TTK in the first damage range. And in the second damage range, the burst mode once again is going to be getting a really great one, while the semi-auto mode is only going to be getting an above average. But I'm going to talk about this more later. So for their damage scores, burst gets a 47.5 and semi-auto gets 52.5. And when we add up all the categories, surprisingly, they both get a final score of 115.5. And as you know, this is a decent score, but not really the greatest for a longer range weapon. Now, about that 2 burst kill. It can happen in close quarters, but remember, your ADS time is not that great. You can make up for it by getting that great 2 burst kill, but you have to make sure you're hitting all your shots. And yes, you can use it up to 85 meters, but you're not going to get that same level of control. You probably will be missing one shot here and there. But because it's a burst weapon that can turn to semi-auto, not a semi-auto weapon that can turn to burst, this gives us a huge advantage. We don't have to switch one of the attachments for the burst perk. So my recommendation is to use the burst mode as far as you can, whether that's 80 meters or 40 meters. After that, switch to the semi-auto mode, and yes, you're going to be getting a slower TTK because you're going to have to slow down your fire rate, but the important thing is that you'll be probably hitting all your shots. And if they're pixel peeking even at 40 meters, just use semi-auto mode. Don't try with a burst. But does this mean that you should be using the burst mode at extremely close ranges? Probably not. It's going to be great when you're being pushed, but if you're in close quarters, you know that you're already going to have a much faster weapon due to its movement and sprint speeds. So if you have an SMG or the amp, then you'll be set. Because while you may not be getting such a great TTK all the time, you'll be moving a lot faster, ADSing way faster, and it's in full auto probably, so it's going to be way more forgiving. So you can say that I was pretty surprised by the FR556. It's not as bad as I thought. But can I really recommend it? Not really. I've done stat guides on most of the semi-auto weapons, and even done comparisons between the DMR14, Type 63, and the FAL. And I'm pretty sure I even compared the SKS. And in the end, the FAL has always been on top. And when it comes to the FR556, it is no different. The FAL has a much faster fire rate and requires one less shot to kill in most areas. And the only time that the FR556 can beat it in pure TTK potential is with a 2-burst kill in the second damage range. But it's probably not going to happen because, as I've said with my other burst weapon stat guides, the third shot is just too unpredictable. To top it off, the FAL just has better stats overall. And when comparing outside of semi-auto weapons, the other burst weapons are still going to perform better as burst weapons. However, I understand that not everyone can reach the FAL's trigger cap. So if you want a burst weapon but also want the precision of a semi-auto weapon at longer ranges, then yeah, the FR556 would be a decent pick. So while it's definitely not meta, you can probably compete against the meta if you can use it correctly. And if you pair it with an SMG, then it's kind of like having 3 weapons in your loadout. You just gotta understand that this weapon has some pretty big downsides, and you gotta prepare to go around those. So that's the FR556. Have you used it recently, or ever? Let me know what you think about it, and if you agree with the video. And if there's any weapon, build, or part of the game you want to break down, let me know, you may see it on the next Community Wednesday. If you enjoyed the video or it's helped you in any way, let me know by leaving a like. If you got any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section down below. And if you want to make sure that you never miss another video, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.